Hello again from the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. It is a fun, casual joint, and this is a fun, casual conversation with Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Bill Landis, and I am Austin.
Oh, I thought that was Nicole.
No, she's not
she
here.
looks differently today.
No, she's not here. She's
got her hair off.
She's got some very important corporate stuff going on, probably related to the test menu. I don't know. But I know that was a big hit last week.
Keep the Parmesan garlic if you're listening to the show.
Yeah.
The test people.
Yeah, I'm excited to try out the mango habanero.
That's a little hot for me, I feel.
The Nashville chicken sandwich was a win.
Yeah.
I didn't taste it, but my son was describing how delicious it was.
I'm going to try the pizza today.
I've heard great things.
Pizza was really good. The cauliflower crust, win.
Nashville chicken
Very good.
pizza.
My kids, here's how I know. They wrote it on the outside of the box, but my kids.
Mine?
I could have drawn anything on that box. They wouldn't have looked. They're like, open it up. Okay, it's a meat pizza. Bam. I ate it. Then they ate some of the other one. I'm like, watching, observing, nothing. It's like, yeah.
So
scarfing it down.
All right. I had a piece too. It was really good.
All right. Perfect. Now, with everything going on, Cinco de Mayo, you had backlash on Saturday, Bill.
Sure did.
You had golf weather.
Kentucky Derby.
You had F1 in
By
Miami.
the way,
Kentucky
Brooks Koepka, 4 straight live event wins.
Wow.
Unprecedented.
Apparently there was
solid.
All right.
Dozens of people saw that happen.
I guess there was a live event as well.
Yeah.
So.
Must have been a
Tiger
lot going on
Woods,
this weekend.
Phil Mickelson, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player. No one.
They never won
None
4
of them
live
have
events in
ever
a
won
row.
4 live events in a row.
That's
4
true.
consecutive live events.
That's what,
Throwing down
12
the
rounds of golf, right?
Throwing down the gauntlet to Scotty.
And you know what? They're so fatigued, they're taking a month off.
Yeah, they're working hard.
I was going to say, with all of these things happening, Jay-Z, surely you had a good weekend.
I
What does Shirley
laid
have to
70
do?
bags of mulch and played some golf on Saturday, so
Did you?
my back feels great today.
What's amazing, gosh, I'm dreading. I usually try to get it done before Memorial Day. I've got to get it ordered. But it's the older you get, dude, the more your back hurts when you're doing the mulch.
I had laid it all out.
Yeah.
The wife went out and started laying the mulch.
Yeah.
I was in with the kids. I was like, I'm going to let her do this. And I was like, nah, I felt bad. So I had to get out there and started getting after
It's
it.
really, honestly, as much as the laying, it's the lugging it to locations.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd already done that part. So it was out for her. But
You just
That
like
gets lighter as you go.
Nah.
Making progress.
Then you got the trees, so you're bent over
Oh.
trying to cut everything.
That is the worst. Going
my back
underneath.
hurts just even talking about it.
It's brutal.
It was rough. But I got to play golf, so that was good. The weather held off. It was a nice little Saturday afternoon.
It was supposed to
Then we
rain
saw
all
some
weekend.
horses. I know.
It was great.
And then we saw some horses run.
I can attest that it did rain on Saturday morning in Marysville.
It rained.
Yes, it did rain Saturday morning. I didn't think I was going to play.
Unfortunately.
Being up north, it rained more. Like Courtney was
we
in
got
Dublin.
sprinkled on a little bit while we were
Yeah,
marching.
Court was in Dublin, and it rained a decent amount on Saturday at spurts. I was down at Obet's on Saturday, 0 rain. And actually, when I was praying for more clouds, because when the sun came out, it was hot. Hot.
Yeah.
Well, I was not prepared for the rain on Saturday.
So
and
you
I
got-
don't- I
you
can't
got
trust
rained
the-
out?
No,
Wait,
I
how
was
were you
out
not
there.
prepared?
No, you went
All the
for it.
forecasts said rain, like
No,
80% all day.
It said I was going to be fine until 2, but I should know better than to trust the weather, man.
That's true.
And it was a
They're
little-
fear panders and they're liars.
They are.
And nobody ever calls them out for it.
Exactly.
Well, you just did.
Well, fair.
It's on the
Tell
record.
you, all of them.
weatherman.
All of them.
Bill, did you have a lovely weekend?
I had a nice time. Yeah, we you and I were down at the trade night there in Grove City at Car Collector 2.
Yep.
Watched a little wrestling. Went to the F1. I was
All right.
awesome with you on Sunday.
You spent the whole
guys,
weekend,
all right.
other than the golf
whole weekend
course.
together.
Yeah,
we didn't
So
we didn't golf
you
together,
guys
but-
work together and
And
live
watch
together?
wrestling together. And,
Somebody said that to us yesterday at Land Grant, where we watched the F1 race. Like, oh, so you guys actually hang out outside of work? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think that we were faking like this friendship that we have? I don't know.
Speaking of F1, how about those prices? $180 nachos is what I saw.
What?
Hey, there's a
Did you
reason.
see that online?
Were they made out of dollar
not.
bills?
Maybe. F1's different than everything else. I don't know, man.
There's a reason why they offered Stephen Ross $10 billion for the Dolphins, the Sun Life, or whatever stadium in the F1 stadium down there.
Boy.
I mean, that is a pretty penny.
It's a good track, and it was a big win for Lando Norris on Sunday.
Yes, it was.
But the transfer portal window also closed since we last convened.
Berm was so disappointed.
We'll
He didn't crack his 7.
we'll talk to him about his over and under in the second half of the show. But I think, Bob, for the most part, the college football world, and I got questions about this all week long. Saturday, Sunday, it's what everyone's talking. How did they keep all 5 quarterbacks? I'm like, well, it felt like it was trending this way for a while.
Okay, Devin Brown came out unequivocally and said he wasn't going to leave.
He can't leave.
I mean, he was
All
like
the
burned
times
the
he
boats.
said,
I mean,
yeah,
he's
I'm
I'm
here.
not scared. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this. Even if the coaches might be like, hey, dude, we might, and not that this has happened. Will might be the guy. I'm still going to compete.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance that he might get on the field.
We're talking about
I mean,
17 or 13, 14 games. You never know.
You know, guys get hit. Will Howard is a guy who will run some, and he's tough. But
He's big and tough.
you never
but,
know.
Yeah.
The two freshmen, it's like they just got there. Were they going to come in? Was Julian Saying going to go to a third school without playing a single game?
Yeah.
You know,
Unlikely.
Aaron Nolan's like, all right, he's battled some things early on. You know, struggled some in the spring, but looked pretty good
Had
in the
his
spring
best
game.
showing in the spring game, probably, right?
So you could see
some confidence.
some ascension with him. And then Lincoln Keenholz came out and said, hey, I didn't plan on playing until after my second year anyway. Yeah. So he's like, I'd rather learn from Chip Kelly and Ryan Day in this offense. And so for each one of the guys individually, it all makes sense. And what was Will Howard going to leave? Hey, I just got here. I'm scared of these guys. I'm out.
Yeah.
This team's really good. It'd be a great chance for me to win a national championship, but I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Jay-Z, we've talked about this. It's just the management of it. I think when you look at those decisions individually, as Bob said, they all make sense for why you stay at Ohio State. I think it's the fact that collectively, and then this new era, and then, what do the reps look like? You've been through some of that before. I think that's what, and after everyone watching last year and training camp being back and forth, and it felt like, and then neither one really separated until the season started, and even that, then you saw both playing. I think that's what is in the back of people's minds. How can this still continue to work?
Well, I think it's just we've gotten so used to
Living in
it not
the new
going,
world.
living in the new world where it doesn't go well. I'm out here. I'm going to go find something new. Air coming in, all of a sudden, the number one quarterback in my class is coming in here too. That mentally, that probably had to mess with him a little bit. Just even though knowing I'm coming in early, I'm a freshman. I'm not probably going for playing time. That does mess with you a little bit. I mean, I came in, Troy wasn't on in our class last one of the day apparently.
Yeah.
It's like
They found a scholarship under the couch.
So I was going to get all
Forgot
those
where I put
reps. Now I'm splitting all those reps, and so I mean it can mess with you. I think to the flip side of what Bobby's saying, yes, great decision staying, but if somebody would have made a decision to go, hey, it is what it is. We know that's 5 quarterbacks is a lot. Only one plays typically, right? So I think the younger guys made a smart decision, saying, I don't need to rush this. Let's learn from Ryan Day. Let's be at Ohio State around this greatness and see what I can do with that. And I think they're just giving themselves time as they should as young players, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to leave next year or what's going to go on or how you're going to develop and how you may take over. So they got a lot of ball to go. And I mean, I'm glad they did stay put.
I think the two guys, logically, outside of Devin, if he wanted to leave, but I think people would say Lincoln and maybe Air, both of those guys, I got here.
Julian had a lot of, he was
Julian,
the first quarterback to get the black stripe taken off.
So those two guys, you said it maybe could have made sense, and I wouldn't have begrudged either one if they said, hey, I get it. It's not, I'm afraid of competition. I would just like to maybe go someplace where I have a better opportunity, and not that Ryan's not going to give him a level playing field, but give me a bigger playing field to play on.
It also goes back to the kind of kids that they recruit nowadays, right? I mean, and they've said it since NIL came out. We don't want somebody who just wants to come here for the big bucks. We want people who want to compete, who want to get better, who want to have the excellence every day. And so you see that in the kids coming in, they're not just throwing in towels saying, I didn't go the way I thought the spring was going to go. I didn't get as many reps. I'm out. They're staying put. They realize it's a process and that they have a lot of room to grow, and they're around great coaches to do so.
What I'm curious, because you guys have been through this, right? And we talked about this maybe last week, and I voiced a little concern about, Larry, you kept all 5. That's awesome. Now, how do you get all 5 work, right? It's one thing in spring where you're not getting ready for a game. You can just roll guys. Yeah. When you get into the August and the fall, when you got to get Will and or Devin ready to play a game, and you have this promise, I think, for lack of a better word, for Lincoln and Air and Julian, that you're still going to find ways to develop them, even if they're not playing. Is there enough practice time to do all that?
So I think one of the things Ryan did, was it last year during camp where they would run 2 fields? Yeah. And so they'd run 2 fields in the NFL.
It was not fun to watch.
Well, for you.
A lot going on.
But I also don't think it was that effective. I mean, personally, you can disagree with me. I'm
going to disagree with you.
But, okay, go ahead. Say what you're going to say first.
I think there are some elements, like you said, where the
getting the
execution
reps is the good part of it.
I think Ryan was looking at that as a quarterback situation. Let's let these guys get some reps. Is there certain positions where it maybe doesn't make as much sense? Yes. But it's like, hey, we're going to figure this out. And you guys, it may not be as great for you, but we need to work on some other guys with this.
I felt it bled over, though, because the reason they were doing that was also because they were looking at the offensive line, and they were splitting that group in two.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wound up with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, like, sometimes with a complete mishmash random lineup and no chance of stopping JT or Jack. And, like, if you saw one quarterback with that group, you're like, well, there's no chance that's going to work.
Well, and I think that's part of it. You've got to make sure that and this comes into your coaching plan for practice, making sure you're aligning guys with like players as much as possible, and understanding that, the defensive line, especially if you're going against linemen, an offensive line that is maybe a little stunted relative to where they're at, because the problem is the defensive line's so deep that you've got to figure out a way, like, hey, stay off the quarterback, even if you get pressure, like, peel off, let them go through it so they can still get it and get the feel of the rep. And so that's kind of what they'll probably try to balance. But I would anticipate them, and it's going to be interesting for Ryan, because he's like, we have the most veteran team that we've had in a while. And so how do you balance those reps, with the older guys who maybe don't need as many, but making sure the young guys still get some? And it's going to be a challenge. It's a good challenge.
It is, but you have a quarterback competition basically going on in camp, right? So those two, I think, you maybe handle them differently. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if you go ones one day with one guy and switch them ones and twos, but the problem there, what you're talking about, is you have three guys to do threes, fours, scout team. Those two young guys could split scout team, but then Lincoln's sitting there saying, "All right, I have nothing here. Like, I want to go throw some balls in scout team. I want to do something." Yeah. So I mean, it is a big number, and it's the good thing is two of those guys are supposed to be going to prom here this weekend. So they're young, and you might be able to hold them off a little bit more.
I wonder if they'll get to fly down home.
Hey,
go to prom.
That'd be nice.
Who would block them?
You guys do that.
They can do that.
I think they would.
I'll never forget. There was.
So maybe they are going.
I can't think of the guy's name. He went to USC. He was the first guy to enroll early. Byrne would probably remember. He was at his high school dance, talking to him. But
scouting.
This was a guy who came in and there was a full spread. Do you remember this in Sports Illustrated? Age and I talked about it. So this guy's like, what a douche.
It was back in our day?
Yes. He was like probably a little bit older than us. And I remember reading it maybe a year or two, and he's like, I went back to prom. I was like the king. Like, it was basically a diary where he's talking about him. Like, you are
the
you were
first
a great
early
AD
enrollee, huh?
But he talked about how he went back to prom. He's like, oh, this big guy at USC.
Wore my red sweats.
I think it wasn't quite that bad.
I wore my team issues to prom.
But they had like some sort. I don't think they have Letterman jackets at USC because it gets cold. I think they literally have like the old school sweaters still. Yeah. And I think he said he had that or something. I don't know how he would have gotten it.
How did he already get a letter?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that I might be misremembering in this story.
Went to EQ and was like, hey, I'm trying to impress this girl.
Exactly.
You got one of those sweaters I can take.
That's basically what it was. I thought, gosh, but these guys now, I mean, they're like the maturity of the current player versus what it was like on aggregate 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Vastly superior to what it is now. Those guys, and I just told Trey that today as I saw him. Like, I appreciate all the things you do to be a positive influence, like a role model with our kids. He just had, was on the podcast, like The Walk, and talking about his faith and everything else. And I'm like, I was not there when I was your age, okay? And I appreciate you being there so I can point to my kids as what to do.
Well, I didn't anticipate us talking about it that way, but you have to be that mature now because the money coming in is real.
I don't know about that. I see these my money long, coach, and you just good pack.
Okay, well, you cannot be mature, and it probably won't work out as well.
Well, that's true, but you had a good time.
Yeah, like that guy in Boston who won the lottery.
Yeah,
he went back to work. The garbage man who went back to work 10 years
feel like
later.
you're going two different directions at the same time, Bob.
I know, it's tough. That's the pull. That's the pull of what was my aspirational life and the life I really want to live when I'm in a really bad degenerate style spot. Zwick has seen both.
Yeah.
Which is good.
But for the current guys, if you don't take that mature response, I don't think you can manage that amount of money. I don't think you can build a winning culture if guys don't understand. Jay-Z mentioned this with the quarterbacks, the understanding of how they view their careers and manage that and making mature decisions. You almost don't have any choice now with the way that the NIL world, the transfer portal, all that stuff is happening to these guys at once. The new world, that it's difficult to navigate. I don't envy them that. And I said that 4 years ago, I guess it was now, with Quinn Ewers. Like, he was the first test case for all of these things, and he was in an untenable spot.
Yeah, and it's amazing because he started poorly, but you would have to argue his career.
Spun out of it.
He figured it out. Yeah, but I
got caught in the jet wash, but was able to pull out.
I didn't think he was going to. Like,
no, I did not.
Frankly, like I can probably say it now because he has, but like I was worried. Like this kid's career is getting derailed before it even begins because of all the stuff he saw.
Sweet mullet, looking good, transferring in and out, snip snap.
Graduated early, came to camp 2 weeks later, whatever it was.
And because there were even less guidelines in place for him at that time, where Texas was like, he can't make any money. I'm like, I'm worth $1 million. Apparently, I mean, I don't know that
the mooch is not cheap.
Yeah, I don't know that deal worked out. I think the Panini one did.
Yeah, I think the
Panini one definitely did. Yeah,
but you got no choice. It's sink or swim in that. Like, because if you're going to professionalize college football,
you got to be professional.
Then you have to handle it like a professional.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's interesting. Of the 6 guys that transferred, 2 of them, that's their second time. And I think that you ask yourself the reasons why guys transfer and trying to figure that out. And, it's not to besmirch anybody. And the Nigel Glover situation is kind of unique, obviously, with Fitz. But, some of the guys come in, it's like, well, you're leaving probably for the same reason you left your last school. Mm-hmm. And that's trying to get a handle on that and talking with some of the administration of what they're doing now with this new revenue split and some of the stuff that's happening. And they feel like they're going to be able to dial back in and get back to the one-time transfer, which I'm a huge fan of. One time, penalty-free, go and play, do whatever. It's all good. But, transferring willy-nilly, I didn't like it.
One of the highest bidders and coming back. And
I didn't come here in the spring, and I didn't like it, so now I'm going somewhere else, and someone else is going to pay me more. I mean, it's not productive for the maturation and growth of the young men.
That's got to be the one thing that when they collectively bargain, whatever, with their employees or not employees, who knows what's going to happen.
But once you get that revenue share, then in court, they'll legally be able to be like, we can put restrictions around this because we're giving them a percentage of what's happening.
Can't do what Caden Proctor did.
No.
Go to Iowa for a little bit.
But not we didn't think we were going to play here anyway. It's like, well, why did you take him in the first place? I guess you take the swing. I don't know, but who knows how much money it costs him to have him on campus for 2 months.
He said that publicly?
He didn't say that in so many words.
What did he say?
He seemed to insinuate that they believed he never actually wanted to play at Iowa at all. Like, he did that as a money-making move with the idea in the back of his head that he was always going to go back to Alabama.
Sure, Kirk.
Yeah.
He's always playing 4D chess out there.
Yeah, we just thought, we'll just give him the money. Who cares?
We just gave all that money to Brian, and he did such a great job with the offense.
Hey, he's in Maryland now. Him and Mike teaming up.
Those guys.
Boy, am I terrified of those Terrapins now.
You should be.
Dream scheme they got going there.
Dream scheme.
You know what else?
What is a dream scheme?
Onion petals.
Tell me about that, Bob.
The onion feathers. They're delicious. Oh,
I think they're nutritious too. It's a vegetable.
It is a vegetable. It's a root. It's
the
pluck you sauce.
The pluck you sauce is a
They've
must.
got it. It's golden brown. They're crispy on the outside, warm and soft on the inside. Just like my man Austin now.
Oh.
They're tremendous. You dip them in the sauce. Got a little...
You're not dipping me in any sauce.
I don't know about that. They got a little horseradish in there. It's like a spicy ranch with a horseradish on top. It's delicious.
Bill's been taste testing over here. How is it?
Tuesday.
We have fresh oil over here. I don't know.
They're pretty good. I also think too, of all the fried
Burm, I think the oil.
I had to learn that from Burm.
Of all the fried offerings, I think these hold their integrity the longest too. I love that.
I don't know. I had the fried pickles and
fried pickles.
I had them. It was
Reheat, really.
Friday. I took them, put them in the air fryer, and crisped them up, and they were just like I got them here on Monday.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Did you put some Parmesan garlic sauce on top of that?
We're gonna get some of that today.
Hit him
Get some of
where
that today.
So don't miss that test menu in here at Roosters. It's a fun casual joint. We're going to take a quick break. Bill's going to hop out. Berm's going to hop in. We'll probably talk a little bit more about the transfer portal when we come back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. A fun casual joint.
Roosters has been so fortunate. We just want to be able to give some of that back to the community.
They donate to organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long time.
They always go above and beyond to help support our foundation to further help veterans.
It's just a wonderful feeling to know that Roosters supports the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge. Berm is here, and I think Bob has something on his mind to ask.
I already hit him once on my show on the Fan. I mean, I'll hit it again with him. The under came through. Berm, what did we end up betting?
Exactly $0.
But it was more, I think, of an exhibition. I forget what I committed on my side. I thought you said you had to eat 25 nuclear wings without clothes on at Roosters for the show next
I
week.
must have missed that. Was I in a nuclear?
Could you eat 25 wings?
And you're going to do it with goggles, so your tears, your eye sweat will fill up in there.
Why did he have to do it naked?
I could probably eat.
That's
50,
for the folks.
I could eat 50
I
mac and cheese
That's just
bites.
for the viewers.
I could eat 50 mac and cheese bites pretty easily, probably within 15 minutes.
Could you dip them in the nuclear sauce?
I think
Yeah,
he
yeah.
should have to do
I could
his
do it,
his
dip.
nuclear
It's just-
and not cry.
The
Like, that's-
Roosters boneless wings are big. You know?
they are
All
big.
their wings are big. That's
They
why I
are-
said 25 is a lot.
I no, that's too many for me to eat.
We
John
can bulk
David,
you back
John
up.
David
You used
Booty,
to be bigger.
John David Booty is who you're speaking about, USC. He did not enroll early. He skipped his senior year of high school.
he shouldn't.
I remember this guy being a fullback, and I like John David Booty.
Fullback
a little
leaving
bit.
early?
Not like a fullback. Maybe he's a running back, a tight end or something.
I mean, Maurice Claret enrolled early at Ohio State.
He did, but this. You're right on the John David Booty. I don't remember that being him because this dude was kind of jacked. I'll have to go back and look because I remember he had his shirt off and there were some really douchey pictures in there.
when I think of douchey pictures from USC, I think of Brian Cushing. But he was
Yeah, but he's older than
He
me.
had his shirt off a lot, too.
He
I
was a
think of
linebacker.
everyone who ever played at USC, pretty much. I think that's all
I'll ask
inclusive.
Hester about it because Hester and John David Booty, they went to the same school, and so Hester would remember that. I'm doing XM with
in
him today.
Shreveport.
Yeah.
Well, so the number, though, was 6, Berm.
Yep.
And we talked about it last week, so throw it out for Jay-Z and Bob as well. It feels like the spring portal window was about as successful as it could be for the Buckeyes. I think, personally, maybe you guys agree, maybe you don't, the person with the best chance to have actually helped Ohio State was Dallin Hayden, who was their third-string running back.
Yeah.
So the rest of that didn't change the roster and the depth chart really at all.
So let me ask you this, Berm, as well, because I know that you, in all fairness, you were the guy who's locked in on recruiting the most that I know. Is there anybody that got into the portal, of the post-spring portal of massive consequence across the country? I mean, were there, a handful of guys, but it didn't seem like there was this
Most of the
monumental
mass
wave.
exodus, yeah.
Most of the guys that were actually going to be coveted around the country are guys that got into the portal in January and then decided to go back and then realized that the money they were promised wasn't coming, and so then they got in again. So that's where you look like Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Michigan State, who ended up at Oregon. That was Miami, USC, Oregon, Ohio State trying to get back involved. I think if anyone like Cormani McLean, who's the number 1 ranked cornerback in the country in the class of 2023, so he played 1 year at Colorado. He was a 5-star. He hasn't found a new school yet.
I heard he was mid at best, though.
He's
mid at best.
He's definitely a player that needed some development and chose to go to the wrong school.
Oh, no, you tell me they're not.
developing out there?
I'm saying maybe he could have got it over a couple years. He wasn't going to get it in year 1 of that experience because the focus was on so many other things. So, he doesn't have another school yet. From what I understand, people around the country are reluctant to even get involved because of question marks about his work ethic and stuff like that have been brought up since. But no, there was not a...
Who, by Dion?
Yeah.
By the head coach of where he just trashed and
Hey, if there's one guy that's going to know if you got to... For all whatever you can say about Dion, I think he knows what it takes to be successful on the field, and clearly they weren't seeing that, and that was going on with Cormani McLean back last summer. Everyone was having conversations then because they expected him to come in and be the starter opposite Travis Hunter, and then he didn't play. So the fact that he didn't was probably a pretty red flag at that point, considering Colorado had 77 new players. So, but no one really made a difference. Ohio State was standing pat almost entirely when it comes to looking at bringing in new players. They're right now probably debating whether or not to bring in another safety after losing Jahad Carter just for depth purposes. So they're interested in Jaden Mangum from Michigan State, who was a really good player for the Spartans, and I know Michigan's going after him too. So that could be an Ohio State-Michigan battle. And there's another safety from Sacramento State who is visiting Ohio State and Michigan this coming weekend. So like they're looking to replace depth, but that's all they lost was depth. And again, as we've talked about ad nauseum over the last few weeks, it's not like they lost second team depth in most cases. They lost third string or beyond. So, no, this transfer portal window was an absolute dud. But we were still this close to getting
you almost got your number.
Because there were still conversations on the final day with other players that
with you and Lurie.
I
was still talking to guys until the final hour.
I was still trying to get them out.
There were conversations.
You can always go back.
Yeah. There's another window.
The Ohio State staff was still having conversations with people on the final day, like are you changing your mind? Are you going or not? So it was a little precarious there for a moment, but 6 guys is still, that's 7% of the roster, right? Like it's not insignificant.
Yeah. No. I agree with you on that 100%. But I think there was a worry that you were going to see guys who are going to be contributors choosing to leave and get lured away for dollars or whatever it might be, opportunities. And you look, like we talked, like Rogers, who was in the portal last year, had a good spring, looked good. Could he go to Pitt and be their second wide receiver? Like Keon Gray's, if he went to Penn State, I think he'd probably be their second or third receiver right now.
He'd be the first at Cal.
Yeah, right? And he's going to Cal, and that's what I'm saying. He'll be their number 1 guy. So I have a hard time begrudging like you should stay here and be the 6th or 7th guy. And he's a good kid, like works hard. He had some issues and things, played a lot in the spring, never really had those game-breaking plays, against, really good secondary, I thought. But he's going to go somewhere and be good.
I think the question and what will be interesting to watch next year is whether or not this spring window being a dud is an anomaly or if that's the way it's going to go in the future. Because the winter portal window makes a whole hell of a lot more sense for people to leave than the spring window does. Like that is not in the timeline where it's actually beneficial for you to go somewhere else. Like unless you're playing wide receiver or running back where it's basically just get ball and run. I don't think for a quarterback, I don't think for an offensive lineman, like that does not make sense to leave at that point of the window.
Definitely not a quarterback. We've talked about that a lot. But I think to your point there, Bob, it's like there was a lot of, I don't know, let's just say fear-mongering like we talked about with the Weatherman. This is going to be the most disastrous, wide open, insane spring portal window ever. Like you're going to see a flood of thousands and thousands of players. And there were a lot of players that went into the transfer portal. But across the country, are we talking about like surefire, proven starters? No.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone thought that Ohio State and Georgia and I don't think anyone thought those teams were going to lose valuable players. There was a lot of people discussing like Michigan. Oh, they're going to lose Will. Like I don't know where the Will Johnson conversation and all that stuff, why that was ever brought up because that never seemed real life. But if you're looking at, there's still thousands of players who got into the portal, but to expect that Ohio State was going to lose anyone of significance, I don't think anyone really thought that.
I guess there was a thought where you could lose, like I just talked, you're losing your 3rd or 4th wide receiver where they're going to get.
Well, they lost that guy in January or in December when he went to Penn State.
Yes. I don't know, maybe another guy starts getting reps, gets lured out. Hey, you can come here and be our, number 1, number 2 guy. And we're going to compensate you commensurately with that, and they're not doing that there, maybe to that degree.
We talked about it on a show last week. But,
Snappy Jays?
No, I think it was
the Daily?
The Podcast Daily, maybe on Thursday. Like, if you break down what Ohio State lost in the portal from December to now, it's 25 guys. Like, they lost an entire recruiting class worth of players to the portal. And to lose that many guys, and outside of Julian Fleming and Chip Trainum, there was nobody that you were counting on to be a contributor for this season. That is remarkable when you really break it down. And then to add Caleb Downs, to add Quinshaw Judkins and Seth McLaughlin, like that is a remarkable
Julian saying
a remarkable
Will Howard
by what Ryan Day and the coaching staff did. We were truly remarkable.
So you feel like Green Arrow net game.
I think if you go back to December 29th, when Ohio State was waking up after getting their balls kicked in by Missouri and embarrassing themselves on national television.
I didn't want to wake up that
The
next
number
day.
of people who were like, "Oh my gosh, this program is done for," and then you think about what's actually transpired since then. It is truly remarkable.
What do you think? You think about now how maybe these guys aren't jumping in because they're seeing. Yeah, we're gonna have a pretty special team next year. This could be a fun ride to go on.
Play like that.
But we go from there being like, oh man, to no, these guys might be sticking around because this is gonna be something special.
I think the other piece too is when you recruit, and Birmingham gets to know these guys at a high level, where you recruit guys that have elite level character, and we were talking about the maturity of them early on, and Lathan on my show was talking to him about it, and he's like, "This is the closest team that I've been on," because it's like everyone wants to know. Oh, the locker room with NIL. I don't know what they think it looks like now with like the portal and NIL.
It's not like there's a chalkboard in there where everyone writes how much they make
above your locker.
Lathan's just walking through and hundreds are falling out of his pockets.
Dudes are like,
can you pick that up for me?
Yeah, I'm like,
hey, Bonsu, pick up my 100.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like that's not how it is. I'm like, guys, that's how it is in the NFL guys.
That's what I was going to say. Like, do they ask that about NFL guys?
Like, everybody knows essentially kind of where guys are at and their value. Like, the only time it gets weird is if you have a guy who is making a lot who isn't a good player. And then that's when guys will start calling people out. But if you have a guy who's a good dude, works hard, and is a good player, people are like, hey, great. You know what? Those guys are generous. They share. They talk to their teammates. Hey, they go out to dinner together. They maybe buy each other skins on Fortnite with their V-Bucks. Yeah. I don't know what the hell
the thing is,
kind of weirdness they do.
I don't know what any of those things
What also
are.
makes this different, although Ohio State,
wait till Bibbity gets older.
But
Ohio State doesn't have infinite money, but this is also not a situation where if player A is making whatever, they're not immediately or directly taking away from player B.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the NFL where there's a salary cap and okay, this player is getting 40% of our budget. Like that is not the way this works. So to assume that kids would be like the saying everybody eats and like or whatever, like they mean that. Like they want everybody to eat.
I like it, but they have a close.
Yeah,
so when you have a close locker room, they keep preaching this brotherhood. And like some people, is that BS?
Don't just talk about it. Be about it.
Ryan did a great job of pressing team during the spring. These guys buy into it. They believe it. You recruit high quality humans. You talk about it, and then everybody looks like it's pretty good roster here. Like I could go somewhere else, but would I have a chance to potentially win a national championship? Like that's.
Am I gonna have to play against these guys?
That is a big deal because you know how hard it is to get there, how hard it is to win. I mean, it's not going to be easy.
Well, if we think back to what Berm's referencing December 29th, that's one of the points that I made. It's like all of these guys, the 7-8 that could have been drafted a week and a half ago, and I don't begrudge them to go and take the money and start their professional career. Their decisions are their decisions, and I don't have any problem with that. But I do, in some ways, think, well, if you're going to keep saying that the Brotherhood is so important to you, at some point, somebody has to step up and show and prove that that's actually true. Again, it doesn't mean that an individual decision is right or wrong, but for Ohio State to get back to the level that it wanted to, competing for national championships, winning the college football playoff, unfortunately, their rival just went through the same thing, and all of those people decided to stick around and actually accomplish something. It was going to take a class like what Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Emeka Ibuka and Denzel Burke making decisions that they did, I think, to get this team back. And that's all trickled out, I think, through the rest of the spring.
Yeah, I mean, we hear about it. We grew up and we went through it, the Brotherhood. It is real. I mean, years out of playing, and people still remember us or talk to us. I mean, we go back to the practices.
Well, most of your close friends are still guys you played ball with.
Yeah, and that's what you miss the most when you get out is the locker room and the stain. I mean, Bobby and I used to live together with a couple other guys. I mean,
the stain on the couch.
You miss a lot of that stuff.
What you really miss is the locker room and the stains on the couch.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff. That's the Brotherhood, and and that's what it's about. So to see
but now they have nicer couches.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they have much nicer stuff.
Stains are blood now.
But it is good to see. I mean, those guys coming back, setting the tone because like you said, we who knows what we'd look like if we'd lost 5 or 6 of those guys,
right?
I mean, going into this season. So I think that was huge for them to come back. And then, everybody they've brought in seems to just get right on board. And when you have that kind of structure at a program, new guys who come in, you don't let them dictate how they used to do things. You're getting on board with us. This is how we do it here. And you're going to become part of that brotherhood. So, I mean, it was huge.
There was a song by Big Timers called "This Is How We Do It."
Mm-hmm. Okay,
and
that was actually Montel Jordan.
Was that No, that's a different song.
This is how we do.
This is a different song.
I think
that was before, and I also am a fan of that song as well. A pretty good one.
Why would you not be?
But
it's a classic.
But the Big Timers, they were spitting philosophy.
They were, and so this is how we do it. Where we're from.
Okay.
Thug it in the club until we see the sun.
I'm not.
So just remember that.
Sure, that is the mantra that these Buckeyes live.
Yeah, it isn't, and it's sad. It's sad.
They're too mature.
They're too mature.
Hey,
too mature.
The amount of Ohio State Buckeyes who are playing golf and coming to hang out with us at the Fairway Columbus.
The only guy I might be able to corrupt a little is Donovan Jackson. I think I could get Donovan.
I think he's the least likely candidate.
So I think I could get Donovan.
Future
He reminds me a lot of Mangold. Great guy, but he reminds me of. Nick was really smart, but Nick was fun. I think I could probably lure Donovan into some fun opportunities.
Now, why do you think these guys are so much more mature now than you guys were 20 years ago? Is it just because of media?
I think because they grew up with this all over them.
Yeah, I mean, I think everywhere they go, they've realized there's a phone on me somewhere, this, that, and the other, and somebody's looking to make a name for themselves by throwing me under the bus. They've been doing interviews
since they were 14 years old.
Yeah,
They've been it is
talking to you, doing interviews with you.
I mean, back in the day, if we knew
there's value for that. There's value in that.
We knew students are going to be out videoing everything you guys do when you're when you're everywhere. We probably would have had a lot of house parties.
Yeah,
because we're not going to go put ourselves in front of that, man.
They don't leave. They don't go
stop.
Out.
I mean, it's definitely. I think the phones, the cameras, everybody being able to just record you.
The era where it was a little bit more like you're going into the Double Deuce Saloon.
Yeah,
Sam Elliott and Patrick Swayze might be there, except they let you do whatever you really want and just take care of other people. Those days were done. I think kind of as we were leaving.
Yeah. You guys were
the days where you'd have
the last vestige
yes.
No, I don't know. It was the last vestige. I think it did go up to that 2012 team.
It did. That was when the little one came up, and that
2015 team had a little bit of that.
I think
in it as well.
There was some spillover then into 15, but I know for sure that Zach Bourne in that class,
they would get after a little bit.
But Zach's an old soul. Zach is a 2002 class member at heart.
He is. He was old school because he's from Pickerington. That's why. But Hireman, Evan Spencer, those guys.
Remember,
they all lived in my place.
When I got here, and
it's
one
still
of those
standing, so that's good.
One of those people that you mentioned, it was right before my first year covering the team, and I was living at Olentangy Commons. Walking down to the pool there, just keg on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that person walking down Bourbon Street 2 nights before the Alabama game in 2014.
Ready to play.
With a pair with a pair of the head coach's daughters. Just waltzing down Bourbon Street at about 3 a.m.
Hey, you know what? Guy played well, though.
Sure did.
Buckeyes.
Won the game.
It would have to happen. Maybe... you need a little bit of that.
That's the point. You need the edge.
A little bit of a wild card.
That's the wild card, the shankability.
We had our groups back in our day that we knew.
It's easy to train.
Thursday night, they're going to come in smelling on Friday morning.
You want to make sure that you're in elite competition form. And then doing that, you have to train through adverse situations. It's easy to get up and lift weights on Friday morning when you go to bed at 9 o'clock the night before. When you make a decision at 9 o'clock to we're just going to go out and we've been at a pool party half the day already.
Yep.
And you're just going to roll that thing in. Or maybe you were out to the Memorial Tournament, getting a little wild there. And instead of going home at a responsible hour afterwards, you roll that into the bogey. Yeah. And there was no Uber, so you're trying to find rides with randos back to campus.
So you're saying the guys have it too easy now
they
because
do.
because they're too good on themselves.
And it's like, hey, they've set up they've scripted for success.
Not going through any.
You guys need to self-sabotage a little bit more.
100%.
No adversity.
Give me a good 3rd and 18 because we fumbled a snap, and you know what? There's all this other crap. We didn't know the play. Delay a game.
Way our first practice in San
Antonio.
You're going to find out more about yourself, both in the good times
and the bad.
You got to see both.
When you have to push through a hard hangover the next day, and you might be throwing up, or a teammate of ours who goes up during a Fiesta Bowl practice, comes flat down on his back, and then tips the ball, gets the PBU, and then turns and throws up through his face mask. I mean, right there on the field at Pinnacle High School, And then you know what? Jogs back to the huddle.
That's right.
And runs another play.
Yeah.
And won a national championship. You know, I have often wondered why you haven't been invited to be a part of the coaching staff. And I'm actually starting to piece some things together now that actually make a lot of sense.
Every coaching staff needs a wild card.
Yeah. They need some shankability on the coaching staff, too.
Yeah. I mean, James was like in that group, but the most mature guy of the group.
James was like the father figure of
yes, like he would go have fun, but he would never do things that were just wildly irresponsible.
It's almost midnight. Got to head in.
The things I look back that we did were reckless at best sometimes. Like
we got a long off season to talk about these things.
We're going to save those.
Off-season.
There's a great story that we'll give you a long tease for about the procurement of empty kegs, because you get $10 for every one. And so if you got like 8 or 9 of them, that was basically like a free keg.
Free keg.
Yeah.
All right.
So
a lot of random houses were missing kegs.
They're just missing kegs, yes. It looks like it's empty. Let's take it.
Those poor people lost their deposits, but you at least wound up with a free keg.
They didn't lose their deposit. We converted their deposit into beer.
Into a free Natty Light.
Yeah.
So
threw a party for the whole campus, so if we did take that.
To go back to the Brotherhood thing, to try to reel this
But we
back.
did it as a team.
Yeah, see? That's what matters. Teamwork makes the dream work. Even the guy like Michael Hall, for example, the one guy who left after this last season, like this weekend, Ohio State had 2 big-time defensive line prospects on campus. And Michael Hall, who a lot of people like questioned how good was his relationship with Larry Johnson, and you see Larry
right there,
at his draft party this weekend. Michael Hall was back
Larry was at his draft party.
Yeah, you put a hat on him.
It's fantastic.
And this weekend, Michael Hall was back on campus helping, walk through recruits with some stuff. And Chase Young called in and was there. And this is the type of stuff where I don't know that it happens that easily elsewhere. And it is special. And I think that's what keeps guys from entering the portal when they have an opportunity to go somewhere else and make more money, or an opportunity to go be the starter, because you're heading into year 3 and you're thinking, man, if I don't do it now, maybe I'm not going to. But there's a number of reasons why people stay, and
while they're here, they see guys who went to the league coming back and doing the same thing, and so it creates that snowball effect, right? Yeah, exactly.
What did you say?
Each one teach one.
Each one teach one.
That's the rule.
Well, and this is the truth. And when those guys came back, your legacy here, and that's what these guys, I want to cement a legacy. I want to do this. I want to do something. These guys have never, they don't have any real hardware to speak of. There are no banners for the bannermen are not there. And so they go, that's part of it. I want you guys to all win, get a gold pair of gold pants, put a Big Ten trophy up, have a national championship
leave
banner.
with a smile on your face.
All those things are great, but I go, part of it is too, you need to leave your individual position room in better shape than you found it. And that is a sustainability element to make sure that you are each one teach one, developing those guys in your room to be able to take over when you're gone.
And if you see what all these guys came into, and we think about Urban Meyer's departure and what in the program that Ryan Day inherited, Dan Hope from 11 Warriors did a good story last week about the 2018 recruiting class, and that was the class that was giving these guys their rooms, right? And it was a pretty bad group.
Who's in that?
All
group?
things considered, I think there were 3 guys of that class who ended up being all Big Ten.
Who were the bad?
Nick Petit-Frere was one of those guys.
Good player.
I mean, it was a.
Give me some other names.
You'd have to pull it up. That was a Teron Vincent class. That was Cam Babb's class. There's now some guys.
Those are all pretty good guys.
Right.
Give me some of the bad dudes.
It's not that they were bad dudes. They just didn't turn into good players or productive players. And so, we look at everything in a vacuum and say, well, okay, Ryan Day's done this since he's been the head coach, but those guys, 2018, 2019, the transition year was rough. 2020
transitions were always hard.
Was COVID. It's been an actual we look back on it now, and I think it's a much harder transition than we believed it was then. So these guys actually have something to prove.
It's tough to be the pivot man when you're trying to spin that around. It can be tough to be trapped in the middle.
As good as the infrastructure was of the program, which was always the strength. There was actually a fairly significant swoon in.
When you talked about
talent.
a bad class, I thought you were talking more of a 17-person class, 4 of them were arrested.
Oh,
5 of them were
we're not
kicked.
talking about Tennessee.
Again,
Because there's a class that may have been after Jay-Z and I that represented.
Oh, man.
It had a very Tennessee feel to it.
Yeah.
That's a much, again, you guys lived in a different era. The adjectives have completely different meanings now than they did 20 years ago.
That's right. As we said, basically in every
Robbing
segment,
dudes on campus.
new era of college football. And the portal era of that is
If
closed.
you don't have a kid in your
Awesome.
class that has a gun possession arrest, I mean, then you're not doing it right.
Not doing your job.
Yeah. Well, again, those are the rules that changed about 2013.
That is why Bobby Carpenter is not on staff and why he's sitting here.
In a gun jar.
We finally figured that out in here at Roosters.
We had a teammate that even after he was in college got arrested and may have had some illicit things on him in a firearm that was strapped underneath his shoulder.
We always do advocate for the wild cards in limited doses.
We had a few of those in our day. We had a couple.
1 or 2 per 85 is.
If you go to lunch with one of your former teammates and they say, "Hold on," and pull their aid
I was
out.
going golfing with one. He goes, "Hold on, let me put this in
That
the
was
trunk."
what it was.
I said, "What were you?" Gold coins. He was going to pick up some gold coins that morning.
I believe the parts per million you're looking for.
Here's the question.
I got in the car with him like an idiot.
Were you going to go pick them up? Were you going to pay them for them? Or were you just
That's what
going
I'm
to take
thinking.
them?
I'm like,
So
just take me to the golf course.
This
Roosters, onion feathers
has been a fun, casual conversation. One of the more fun and casual ones that we've had in a while, to be honest with you, here in May. But guess what? Tomorrow you can get some onion feathers.
Shake your tail feather.
With the pluckin' sauce for $3 on Appetizer Thursday. Thanks to Nicole Cox and Roosters for having us in here for this wild show. Thanks to Bill Landis, Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Warbley, back in here next week. See you then.